Acumatica is here with us, Jessica Gadbois, pre-sales engineer. We also have Griffin Ortail over at YayPay. He's going to be talking about the accounts receivable automation in Acumatica. And Patty Benitez is with us. We're going to be talking about APS payments and payment automation integrated with Acumatica. And just a little bit about the companies quickly here. Acumatica is the umbrella ERP that all these solutions integrate with. It is an adaptable cloud and mobile technology solution with an all-inclusive user licensing model. It includes financials, distribution, manufacturing, project accounting, and CRM. And it's the only one true cloud ERP platform designed for mid-sized customers. And YayPay is also with us, as I said, and they are an accounts receivable automation tool that makes collecting money fast, easy, and highly predictable. It assists credit, collections, and accounts receivable teams in enhancing visibility into the collections process. It also helps with team collaboration, and it takes that tedious manual work out of the process, and it helps you increase your customer satisfaction. And APS Payments is with us as well. They're a full-service merchant services provider. They have a very strong integration with Acumatica, where it will get the lowest rate possible, especially in a B2B environment, using that level 3 credit card processing, because it takes all the information about the customer, their location, anything necessary to serve up to those credit card processing companies to lower the rate with all the information available in Acumatica, and it automatically fills all of the fields in that's required to get that level 3 credit card processing rate. So just a little bit about the workflow. We're going to be talking about how orders come into Acumatica and how they are assembled on the shop floor. And we're going to really take a deep look into that. And then we're going to talk about how you can collect on those orders faster with accounts receivable automation, and then how you can get paid faster with the American Payments. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jessica to kick it off with Acumatica. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you very much, Adrienne. Just give me one moment while I share my screen here. I just have really 2 slides that I wanted to share with everybody before I get started today. Adrienne, can you just confirm that you're seeing my slides correctly?
I am. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. My name is Jessica Gadbois, and I'm going to take you through an overview of the Manufacturing Edition today. I'll go as deep as I can into what I call the core modules of Acumatica. And when I say core modules, these are really the 2 modules that any user of Manufacturing Edition is going to get, or any person that uses Manufacturing Edition as a whole is going to get these 2 modules with it. Now, bill of materials can really be thought of as your templates for production. So this is the area that is going to act as the foundation that allows you to define different things like materials, labor, costs, overhead for the production side. So your bills of materials will end up acting as your planned costs. And then over on the production side, this is the second core module that will come with Manufacturing Edition. And this is what takes those bills of materials and takes those components, sub-assemblies, and converts them into finished goods. So we're going to really focus on these 2 modules today. We do have some optional modules that are part of Manufacturing Edition as well for anybody out there that is interested in taking a separate look at this after the fact. We're going to provide our contact information, and we'd be happy to set you up with a second demo. But some of those areas would include things like manufacturing estimating that allows you to essentially design a custom bill of materials for something that does not currently exist in inventory. We do have our own product configurator, which is very unique for Acumatica. This is not provided as a third party. It's directly through Acumatica, a seamless module that if I have time today, I'll show you within my software environment. We do also have an MRP, or Material Requirements Planning module. This helps to do just-in-time purchasing and production. It'll look at things like sales forecasting. It will create exceptions to help you defer or expedite your purchases. And finally, over on the right, we do also offer shop floor scheduling, both on a finite and infinite capacity basis. We are currently doing this at the work center and the machine level, and we do have plans to continue expanding it down to the employee level as well. Now, as I mentioned, I didn't want to spend too long on slides, so I'm going to take you right over into my software environment next. What you're looking at right now is an Acumatica cloud environment. You will have access to Acumatica anywhere that you have access to the internet. So I'm accessing from a laptop today, but you could also do this from a tablet, from a smartphone even. And what you're going to see is that we are a role-based system. So I'll be accessing as an administrative user today. That's really so I can show you all of the different areas that might come up. But for the most part, users that are accessing Acumatica are only going to have access to the different screens, fields, transactions that they need to get their job completed. So somebody that is on the manufacturing team might not have access to do things like look at balance sheets or the general ledger. We also are going to see that the different dashboards that we're looking at here, like this manufacturing example, as well as these workspaces over on the left, those are going to also be configured based on your role. So while I can see many different workspaces today, and I also have access to quite a few different dashboards, as I'll show you in a moment, a typical user would probably see a much narrowed version of this. So maybe only have access to something like the product configurator in the bills of material workspace, but they can't touch something like sales orders, just as an example. Now, Acumatica is seamless. It takes Manufacturing Edition and it's seamlessly connected to the other areas of our ERP. So we are completely integrated with things like finance, project accounting, fixed assets, all the way down through CRM operations. My focus, of course, today is going to be on the manufacturing side, but do keep that in mind. As Adrian put it, we are really an umbrella solution for all of those different areas to talk to each other. What you're looking at on my main screen right now is a manufacturing dashboard. So these dashboards in Acumatica allow you to view all of your business activities in one centralized location. They are typically based on a role. So while I'm looking at a manufacturing dashboard right now, I'm seeing things like production that I have in process, who are my top manufacturing customers. I have some key performance indicators such as machine costs and labor costs. And that's from a manufacturer's, maybe a manager, a shop floor manager's view. Somebody like a controller or somebody that works over on the financial side, their dashboard's going to be very, very different. So they're likely not going to be interested in things like the production and process, but they're going to have different key performance indicators, perhaps against things like cash flow or current outlays. And it looks like we're a little bit slow because of all the people on the go-to meeting today, which is a good sign. But let's see if I can wake it up here. There we go. All right, so this is a view of a controller's dashboard now. Like I mentioned, just totally different from the manufacturing side. We're seeing that the financial view is top 10 AR balances. You know, what does our customer churn look like? What bills need to be paid? And all of these things can be designed. It does not have to be set in stone that the dashboards look as you're seeing it here today. So it's very easy to configure that data. I'll go back to that manufacturing dashboard. It's very easy to configure that data. Perhaps, you know, do something simple like move it around, or if you just wanted to resize these widgets here, or something like remove or add a brand new widget is very easy to do as well. We do support many different types of widgets, as you're seeing on my page right now. So if I wanted to do something like, you know, add a new chart or add a new data table, which is really a listing of information, then if I have the permissions to do so, then I can go in and make those dashboards changes. Now that's to get us acclimated to some of the overview areas of the system. But as our focus is manufacturing today, I'm going to take you right into this bill of materials module next. And if you recall, this is one of the two core modules that comes with Acumatica, bills of materials, or excuse me, with Acumatica Manufacturing Edition, I should say. We're looking at bills of materials and we're also looking at production orders. Now, right now, under my bills of materials, I'm seeing that I have a whole number of active bills of materials in the system. I can also store my inactive ones as well, and I can determine, if I'd only like to see a list of the active ones, for example. I'm going to grab a bill of materials for an item that I have sitting out here, and we're just going to quickly explore the setup together. If you recall, I mentioned earlier that the bill of materials is going to act as your template for production, or your planned costs and your planned routings. So what you can see on the bill of materials is up in the top is our summary section. And in that summary section, we're defining, of course, the finished good that's going to be created. We're also defining things like the bill of materials ID, which we can create automatically in a sequential type of order or in an order of your preference. We do support revision control in Acumatica, as well as full engineering change control. So if you needed to submit a change request and send that through an approval process, and even submit a change order and send that through an approval process, we can help you to make those changes to your bills of materials and create new revisions while also storing that revision history. Now, down in the middle, this is where we set up the different operations and the routings that are going to be involved in creating this finished good. So here we have to go through setup, assembly, a final assembly, an inspection, and finally a packaging operation in order to complete this finished good. We also set up the different work centers that are associated with those operations. So we're saying that the setup is occurring within Work Center 10, and within this work center, we can define a standard cost for our labor and our machines. And that, again, is going to end up being the planned labor costs that will get applied to any production orders that we create for this inventory item. You can also see over on the right, things like my run units and my run time for my variable labor, and my machine units and my machine time for my machining costs. Down on the bottom of the screen, we see 4 tabs: materials, steps, tools, and overhead. And each one of those tabs is tied to the highlighted operation line that I have selected. So right here, we're saying when I am in the setup operation, here are the materials that we need to utilize. We can also see the quantities of those materials that are required, the units of measure, etc. As I select the assembly operation, just notice that those materials are disappearing. That means that I don't have any materials associated with that operation, only with this particular setup operation. So you can just start to associate things like materials, overhead costs against individual operations on a BOM. Over here on my steps, you can choose to add additional steps that the shop floor employee should perform when creating this item. So here we're telling them to reference a video. You might want to include actual files or drawings here. So you can see that there's actually a video file for that employee to go out and watch a video that can help them perform that operation that they're working on. And as I said, basic files can be attached, and also notes as well. And then tools and overhead. We can support tooling costs and capture those against a bill of materials, as well as a production order, as well as different types of overhead costs. So fixed, variable based on things like quantity completed, or variable based on labor. Now that's a little bit about the bill of materials setup. We now have an understanding of how the costs for the bill of materials are going to be defined. If I wanted to do something like create a bill of materials summary, I can select the reports dropdown from that bill of materials, print something, or generate a report that looks something like this. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to utilize this to create a production order. So we'll go out and create a production order for this item next. On my new production order, I have my inventory ID, and in this example, we're really just going to make to stock. I'm just going to generate a production order, and I'll just assume, a quantity of 1 will work for us today. But keep in mind that if you're an engineer to order type of organization or you're making to order, we can also generate sales orders and link your sales order lines to production orders. We can use the product configurator to generate a new work order, as well as the estimating module. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. I'll just create a new work order today in the essence of the time that we have together. Now, what we talked about or what we publicized for this webinar, and I think what this production order is a great example of, is visibility across the system and visibility into areas that really require your attention. So on this production order, I'm getting great visibility into things like, references. So here's the bill of material that's being referenced for this work order. If you recall, this is the bill of materials we were taking a look at a moment ago. I'm also going to get visibility into my totals. So this is another thing for this particular webinar that we talked about, is that you can compare your planned to your actual costs and then measure any production variance. So right now we're seeing all of our planned job costs based on that bill of materials that we just reviewed. And then in this actual column, of course, we're seeing zeros right now because we haven't actually captured any data or any transactions against this job. Finally, we're going to be able to capture or measure the variance in real time. So we have everything sitting at negatives right now because we need to go out and perform some work against this production order to actually get it done and completed into inventory. Lastly, this event history tab is another great example of visibility in Acumatica. What this is it's going to be an audit trail of all of the activities that occur against your production order. So right now I'm seeing that all we've really done is create this particular production order, but as I go out and I issue materials or I capture labor against this job, I'm going to see all of those activities appear here under the event history. So a production manager, or really anybody that has access and needs that visibility, can access this work order, check their event history tab, and see what stage in the process they are at right now. Finally, over here on the general tab, just a couple of things to note. Acumatica is going to consider things like lead times. So if you look here, there is a significant lead time for this particular item. So it's telling us if we want to have it by the 21st, then we need to start it by today, keeping that lead time into account. If you recall from the PowerPoint earlier, we do offer the advanced planning and scheduling, which I likely won't have time to get into today, but that would support the finite capacity piece of this, which would then allow you to schedule the shop floor down to the exact blocks of time that are required to complete this production. What I'm going to do is I'm going to release the order next. I'll keep us under the event history tab while I do that, just so you can see the new line that appears here. Just again, that visibility and that real-time access to the activities that are occurring against the job. So we've released the order to the shop floor. That means we're done planning it, it's ready to be produced. And we can now start issuing transactions against this. To do that, I'm going to go up to my actions menu and I'm going to say release my materials. Actually, one more thing, I changed my mind. I'm going to check to make sure that I have materials on hand first. So this is another great part that Acumatica gives you access into, is the inventory and purchasing side of this. So if I would like to double check that I do have the components to actually produce this finished good, I can check out this critical materials screen here. And what I'm seeing on this critical materials screen is that nothing is actually appearing. And that's a good sign, because that actually means that I do have all of the materials on hand that are needed. So what I can do is go out and issue the materials to the job. If I did have line items appearing here, I could understand how many I did have on hand and how many I was short. And then I could generate a purchase order to go out and actually get the parts that are needed for that job. Now, back on my production order, so let's pull that production order back up that we were working with. And one more thing I'll say about that is the critical materials is looking at this on a 1-to-1 basis. So it's telling us for that one production order, here are the materials that are required. We do also have the MRP. which is going to look at all of the orders at once and is going to indicate, based on different replenishment settings like minimums, maximums, safety stocks, lead times, what we suggest you need to purchase based on that total demand. So we do have that module, again, probably outside the scope of the presentation. Maybe I'll get to spend a moment there in just a few minutes as I finish up this production order, if we get lucky. But here, I'm gonna just really finish up with a couple of things, such as issuing those materials out that we now know we have on hand. So let me grab that production order back that we were working on, production order number 865. We checked to see that we have the materials available, so let's release them to the job. This is an activity that I'm going to perform within Acumatica as a transaction within the ERP. This is also an activity that could be performed through something like a scan gun. So we do support barcode device reading, and we can do barcode data collection on the shop floor to both issue materials and to capture labor. So if that's something that you're interested in for your business, we can support you on that side. You will also notice when I get to this material transaction screen, Acumatica recognizes what we need to issue based on that bill of materials. So not a lot of data entry involved here. We do support hard allocations and soft allocations. So if from this point you would like to go in and actually start to allocate a particular item out of inventory or a particular serial number, maybe from a particular lot number, then we do have the access to allocations as well. I'm not going to change anything on this material transaction screen. I'm just going to issue the exact quantities that Acumatica is suggesting. If you look at the bottom, this is another area on the visibility side where we can see exactly how many of each one of those line items we have currently available in inventory. I'm going to release this material transaction now. And what is going to happen is, first of all, those component parts are going to be depleted. So these numbers are now going to have gone down by 1, if you catch that. And we're also going to see over on the production order that we've started to capture some material costs against that. So here on my event history now, we are going to see a new transaction, a new line here that showed us both that materials have been issued, but also that a batch number has been created that hit our general ledger. So for any finance junkies out there today, that's of course the most important part of our ERP system, is that it is generating those journal entries on the back end. So checking that box here for you all. And then what I would like to also highlight is over on the totals, we're going to see now that the materials have appeared in the actual column. So we're starting to pull transactions into this production order that we've been working on. The next thing we would do is probably issue some labor out to this job. And this is another area that you could do through a barcode scanning device. If you would like to have employees, clock in, clock out when they're entering a work center. We can also just enter labor time similar to a timesheet, which is what I'm doing right now. So I can go into this transactional screen and I can say exactly which job I was working on. I can also say exactly which operation I was working on. So we can get pretty granular with how we would like to apply our costs here. If you look, I'm seeing all of the different operations from that bill of materials. I'm going to apply labor to this last operation. Now you could force the system to make you go through a different transaction at each operation. In my environment, all it calls for is a labor transaction to be completed in this final operation here, and that is enough to close out the production order. So if I complete the total quantity on the order, which was just a quantity of 1 today, and in that last operation, we are going to see the status of that order change to completed. My dashboards would be updated to reflect the status of my production in process as completed. And my WIP, which has been created through those material transactions, are also going to be closed out as the production order gets closed out. It wants to know which employee I am. That's because I'm an admin. For the most part, you would only have access to enter your own time. And then it's asking me to clock in, clock out. What time did I start and end, which would calculate your labor time, or you can just input, the amount of labor time that you worked. So I'll say 1 hour. Finally, I take that off of hold and I release my labor transaction. And what is going to happen now is I see those costs get applied to my work order, and I also see that my work order has been completed. We'll see that the status here gets changed to completed, and same thing we saw with the materials. We see the event history capturing that transaction, and we're also going to see that information under our totals. One thing I will mention, for any manufacturers on the line that are familiar with the term backflushing, we do support backflushing in Acumatica, which is just a way to cost your materials and your labor. So just answering that question for anybody that might have it. Now, looking at my timer here, it seems like I do have perhaps 2 or 3 minutes left. So I would like to spend just a moment talking about the MRP module with you. That is typically the most common module that we are going to see clients add beyond the 2 that we've talked about today, which are bill of materials and production. So at this point, we have successfully gone through a production order. We have moved this finished good into inventory now that it's completed. We see that quantity is complete and that item would now be available to be sold. But let me back out of that work order. And what I'm going to do, like I mentioned, is just talk about the MRP here for a second. And MRP in Acumatica is going to look at a couple of different areas. It can consider things like forecasts. So you can generate forecasts in Acumatica based on sales history. You can also import forecasts if you'd prefer to do them outside of the system. The MRP can also look at master production schedules. Also, another terminology for that would be a build schedule. And that would be for those of you that are making to stock. Something like, we need to make 100 of this particular item every 6 months. So let's factor that into our build schedule and have MRP tell us when we need to build it. So MRP can help you with both purchasing and production to gain just-in-time inventory is really the goal of this. It's also going to look at things like safety stock, those minimums, those maximums, any lead times that you have set against these items. And the result is going to be this screen here, which is my MRP display. And on this MRP display, there's a lot going on here, a lot of data. You can start to filter down this data based on different conditions. So for example, if you just wanted to see everything from today, you could start to filter down the data that way. I'm going to help us read one of these MRP lines. Let me select, let's see what's a good example here. This is a good example. Yeah, that's a pretty good example. So what we see here is this is based on this sales order. So in this related document tab, it's showing us where the demand is coming from that is driving the MRP suggestion. So it's saying in order to meet the demand for this sales order number 3759, you need to go out and actually purchase that item by the 14th in order to meet your promise date of the 19th. So considering the lead time and considering your demand, you need to purchase 137 of these. MRP is very date and time sensitive, so there is some older data in here. Apologize for that. But also just take note of this source column where it's indicating if you are actually going to be purchasing, manufacturing, or maybe transferring the item. And then based on those suggestions, you can do just that. Generate a transfer order, generate a purchase order, or generate a work order or a manufacturing order to perhaps fulfill the demand for a build schedule, fulfill the demand for a sub-assembly, or something along those lines. So MRP, we could spend, again, some more time there. This is something that I would prefer to spend probably 25 total minutes on, which is the amount of time that was for my entire presentation today. So now that we're reaching the end of the presentation, I just want to close off by leaving you with a quick recap. that Acumatica really is an all-in-one umbrella system. It's offering different solutions for different industries, with the focus being manufacturing today, but that is seamlessly connected to those other areas such as the financial ledger, customer management, and project accounting, just as a couple of examples for us. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Griffin at YayPay. He is going to talk to you a little bit about his solution and how it can integrate with Acumatica for a more seamless AR operation.
I'm just going to do one quick slide, brief overview of what YayPay is, how we are helping folks automate the accounts receivable process. So kind of think of it as three main pillars. So first, helping you automate a lot of those manual, tedious aspects around invoicing and collecting on invoices from your customers, making sure that each invoice is delivered and followed up in a very personal and timely manner. Second being offering a lot of visibility around both internal and external communication with customers, statuses of invoice, and allowing your customers one easy spot that they can come in and view all their invoices, make payments, and just download them internally, kind of giving the ball back to your customer in that aspect. And then lastly, helping predict and get a good grip on who your good customers are, who are my not good customers. So we're analyzing their past payment patterns, how they're trending here in the near time to help you identify who your good customers are and predict future invoice payments with what probability as well. So I'm going to jump into the actual YayPay platform here right now. And what we are looking at here is the dashboard. So YayPay is both R1 and R2 certified in the Acumatica space. And as new releases from Acumatica come out, YayPay is fully certified with them. And we are talking back to Acumatica every 59 minutes. So as soon as you were to adjust an invoice, adjust customer data within your Acumatica system, it would reflect in YayPay within the hour. So essentially a real-time feed here. And you can think of this as essentially your collections hub. And we are looking at the dashboard now. So this is where you're going to come in just to get a real good health of your AR pipeline in real time. So the date range at the top is going to be super customizable. All the data down below is going to reflect from this point in time. This ribbon at the top is also interactive. So if I see I have 9 overdue invoices, can quickly jump in to see, where they're coming from, how long they've been overdue, etc. Can export pretty much anything we see in the system out for further slicing and dicing. But we're bringing you in real time here your DSO, your cash collected, your average days to pay, and these colorful letter scores throughout the platform. This is what I was mentioning with that predictability analysis. So we're analyzing their past payment pattern, how they're trending here in the near time, and identifying who your not so good customers are here in the Ds. Maybe my good customers were already in steel. And what we're doing with this data here and this machine learning and AI that's happening in the background is we can extrapolate it out into a cash forecasting model here to help you predict when future invoices will be paid with what probability as well. We're bringing you some other key insights into your AR portfolio, such as which bucket most of our money comes from on a day-by-day basis, as well as a rolling total of outstanding versus current AR on a day-by-day basis. Some visibility back into your AR team, so we can see here some KPIs regarding individual team members for a specific time period, as well as helping set individual and team collection goals and track how we are collecting to how we would like to be collecting. So the next thing I'm going to jump to here is some of the automation in the platform through YayPay's collection workflows. Now you can create as many different workflows as you'd like, and can think of these as ways to group your customers into different communication styles that are going to happen automatically through the different rules and cadence of events that we set up for the group of customers within each workflow. So I'm going to jump into an example here and show you just really how flexible and customizable these can get to the group of customers assigned within the workflow. So we really created this entire system with the end user in mind. So very easy to come in and make tweaks and changes to different workflows and communicate with your customers in a very personal and professional manner. So in this example, an email is going to get sent to this customer 1 day after the invoice is created. So you create your invoice in Acumatica, it comes into YayPay, and because we have it set to 1 day, the next day this email would be sent out We can attach any open invoices as PDFs with the click of a button. We can create as many different templates as we'd like in terms of the body of this email going out with these dynamic tags coming straight out of your Acumatica system. So the result is a very personal message that gets delivered to your customer at a very specific day within the invoice cycle. So we could continue to escalate these emails with different templates as far as you'd like it to. However, the real magic of these workflows is through various notifications, calls, triggers, rules that we help establish that alerts your team when they need to step in, when the human element is going to be needed, and really helping them prioritize their day-to-day and take the guesswork out of collection. So no longer sifting through aging reports, trying to figure out who do I follow up with, how do I get their contact information, etc. YayPay is going to prioritize your team's day-to-day via their to-do list based off of these rules and algorithms that we establish. So an example of that could be a notification. So YayPay has little one-by-one pixels embedded in each email. So as soon as it's opened or vice versa not opened after a certain point in time, we can alert your team to step in. And the call task would work the same way. So in this example, day 45 or day 25 after the due date, we still haven't received payment. Whichever AR rep is working this account will be told via their to-do list, call customer X because of Y. And again, we can stem these notifications off of any email going out, whatever really we think makes most sense to the group of customers assigned to this workflow. So 2 workflows can be totally different. You can even have one workflow for a single customer if there's a total outlier within your business. We are also here helping collaborate with other departments as well. So a lot of folks will maybe get their sales teams, customer success, account managers looped into the collection process at some point in time. So in this example, day 45 after the due date, another email is going to go out. And if we still haven't received payment, so this would be day 46 now, we're going to go ahead and ping that sales rep with another customized message, maybe avoid commission clawback, whatever it may be to help bring them in and get the ball rolling a little faster. So we can escalate these as far as we'd like here, totally customizable manners. We can also set series of rules and triggers on workflow levels. So I like to think of this as pretty much setting a safety net, and any potential issue that comes up, we want it out of the way at day 1 through 5 in the invoice cycle instead of day 60 through 90 when it was potentially a silly error like the contact left the company, maybe they're on vacation, just really trying to flush out any of those potential issues as early on as possible. So an example, maybe if this email bounces, we want to go ahead and alert our AR manager right away. So again, just really customizable in terms of how you want the system to react to different type of events that happen throughout the invoice process. The last piece of the puzzle on these workflows is bringing that visibility back to your customers as well. So in any email going out, most folks will just include it at the bottom of each email, just again to keep that in front of your customers, but it's called a statement link. So it would say, Dear Griffin, you have 5 invoices totaling $10,000. Click here to view your statement. So each and every one of your customers will have their own unique statement link that would take them to their portal, if you will. So there's no login necessary on their end. They would just click their own unique statement and be taken to this page here. So this is where they can see all of their open invoices, closed invoices, payments that they have made on their account. They can come in and take action as well. So they can download this invoice internally. They could dispute, make a promise to pay, or go ahead and facilitate a payment here via our partners, American Payment Systems, and via credit card or ACH. And with our integration with APS, we are qualifying for level 3 processing here. So definitely a significant chunk of change to be had in terms of savings on payment rates that you can leverage through the APS YayPay integration. Your customers also have the ability here to communicate with you if something maybe doesn't look right on a particular invoice, or they can even come in here and open a dispute on the invoice as well if they want to get more specific. So this is the visibility kind of for your customer. And now after going through the automation rules and the customer visibility, I'm going to jump into some of the visibility for our accounts receivable and our finance team as well. So starting with our aging report, this is going to be a bit more dynamic than our typical Excel download we are used to. We can slice and dice it by pretty much anything that lives within your Acumatica ERP just for filtering quick groups of customers here in real time. If I want to change the way one customer or multiple customers are being communicated with, can do that very easily here. Maybe we've had some turnover on our team, and now Tom Brady is going to be working all of these folks. Very easy to do so here as well. But my favorite part of this agent report is our ability to drill down into each and every account. So I'm going to jump in here to Wayne Enterprises, where we're going to access its customer record page. And what we're essentially doing here is combining all the information that lives in your Acumatica, your Google Sheets, your spreadsheets, your email inbox, your physical sticky notes, and creating one central location that anyone in your organization can come in and see what's happening in real time. So all high-level company information at the top, both internal and external contacts here on the right. We have all open invoices, closed invoices, payments that have been made on the account. And if I'm working this from an AR team perspective, this is where I would come to log my call with this customer, send a one-off reminder to this customer, create a note on their account with a task for myself at a future day and time. So maybe follow up with John in 2 weeks. It would populate my to-do list as that time approached. I have one-off ability on all these individual invoices as well. So if I have this customer on the phone and convince them to make a payment for invoice number 8, I can go ahead and facilitate that on my end as well, being the AR specialist. We have, again, internal and external contacts. And then the real beauty of this page here is essentially an audit trail down below that's tracking all activity on this account through the duration of our relationship. So we have all emails going back and forth, whether they have been opened or not, any notes made on the account, both on the invoice and the account level, any calls logged. I can come in easily to view disputes, the back and forth between my customer and I, and just really giving anyone in your organization the ability to see what's happened on an account in real time. As YayPay is not a seat-based product, so again, anyone that would make sense to have a login to YayPay definitely could, just to get that increased visibility across multiple folks on your team. So the last thing I want to touch on here, I know we're running short on time, is this Invoices tab, which you can essentially think of as an aging report, but instead of by customer, it's going to be by invoice. So we have all of our invoices across our portfolio in here. Again, we can filter, slice and dice, put custom statuses for reporting and filtering abilities, but just giving you that total flexibility to get a group of invoices here in real time and see the status very easily here without needing to work through multiple systems to try to locate all that information that lives all over the place. So I know that was very quick and fast on the YayPay side of things, but I just wanted to thank everyone here again for taking the time to be here. If there's any questions, more than happy to dive in further or answer any after this. And I believe next up will be Patty from APS, and she's going to walk you through their solution over there. So thanks again.
Thank you, Griffin, and great presentation so far, Jessica. Thank you, Adrian, for bringing us together. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, it's really all about automation, security, compliance, and delivering the best of what we can offer to our customers. A happy customer will always return and will refer us, of course. APS Payments is a full-service merchant provider, and believe it or not, many of the solutions that we've created are based on customer requests. Number one, we like to educate our merchants and help them understand their current merchant statements. A lot of the time there are fees and rates that can be lowered, and we like to teach you exactly how that can be done. Not all merchant providers offer level 3 processing. We also want to make sure that our merchants understand exactly what level 3 is. And for those of you that are on the line right now, this is the most important topic when it comes to payment processing. Level 3, in a nutshell, is a program that was put in place by Visa and MasterCard that is absolutely free. And it basically offers to lower your rates in half if you provide 13 to 16 data fields. What APS Payments has done is taken those data fields from Acumatica and delivered them on our merchants' behalf. So in order to obtain these lower rates, you will not have to do anything different other than process within Acumatica. Many processors do not offer live support. We do. And then, believe it or not, reporting is always an issue. I want you to know that we make sure that the reports that are needed based on the credit card processing side of things are available to you at your fingertips. There are literally thousands of reports that we provide our merchants and assist in creating at absolutely no charge. Many of the challenges have to do with processing internationally. We do have multi-currency available. And then, of course, the duplicate entry is very time consuming. And that's across the board, right? Everybody wants to be able to automate and make sure that there's really no more room for errors and get things done as quickly and efficiently as possible. The integration to e-commerce solutions, the point of sale to mobile solutions is almost not available anywhere. And we make sure that we address that with all of our merchants. So let's start with a quick credit card processing 101. The number one question that we get is, what fee structure is the best for me? Let me tell you, the mistake that many of our merchants make is that they enjoy and prefer the flat rate. The flat rate is definitely something that would be easy for you to reconcile, very straightforward, but it's really more for the smaller companies that have very little transactions. And why is that? Because number one, level 3 does not apply. So if you're processing a business to business or business to government transaction and qualify for level 3 rates, you will not be able to take advantage of them because of the flat rate contract that you've signed with your processor. So please keep an eye out for any flat rates. Then there's a tiered pricing. Tiered pricing is where the processor will qualify the transactions in 3 different brackets: fully, mid, and non-qualified. Now, the setback here is the criteria behind qualifying the transactions is made solely by the processor. So when we ask our merchants, okay, we noticed on your statements that many of the transactions are not qualified, can you give us the criteria? They really don't know the answer. And 90% of the time, as you heard, the transactions are not qualified, which means a higher rate. Then the last fee structure, and this is the most transparent, we would always recommend, is Interchange Plus. Interchange Plus basically offers to provide the merchant the hard cost from the card brand plus a transaction or a markup fee from the processor. This is very transparent. Why? Because there's an area in which we teach our merchants, they can go and verify the rate that the processor is giving them is actually coming from Visa and MasterCard. And not only that, you can verify that you're obtaining the level 3 rate that we promised if you're processing any corporate cards or government cards. Many people will tell us, I'm using Authorize.net, everything is working just fine. I believe it is. Authorize.net is definitely a good solution. Here's the setback. Aside from the fact there are many fees associated with Authorize.net, you are not able to take advantage of level 3 processing. And remember, in order to obtain the level 3 processing rates, you have to do nothing different other than process within Acumatica using APS Payments. And then there's something else. APS Payments released a click-to-pay functionality. It's a very small-scale accounts receivable solution for you where you're actually able to send out your invoice from Acumatica with the Pay Now button on the body of the invoice. And I'll show you a little bit more about it. But before I jump into click-to-pay, I wanted to just briefly show you the fields that are required in order to obtain level 3 rates. You can see it can become very cumbersome, but we have taken care of this and automated the process for you. Now, here's a sample analysis of what we were actually able to save a merchant who was processing using the tiered structure. Notice how we actually placed them onto Interchange Plus fee structure, and we were able to lower their rates considerably to the point where we were able to save them almost $1,400 a month. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have been able to save merchants over $300,000 a year. I'm not exaggerating, and I'm underlining this. And it was simply by processing through level 3. So the merchant didn't have to do a thing. APS also offers free PCI compliance assistance. Remember, with level 3, we're going to be able to save you an average of 43% on any Visa and MasterCard business to business or business to government transactions. We also offer integrated EMV and chip reader terminals, daily automatic batching, 24/7 live support. Nowadays, that's almost a luxury. Now, let's go right into Click to Pay. What I'm going to do is jump right into the software and show you what Click to Pay would look like. So within Acumatica, you're going to notice in your banking module 2 new menu items. One is the Click to Pay setup. The other is the Click to Pay process Click to Pay payments. If you go to the Click to Pay setup, you'll be able to see exactly, and I'm sorry, here it is. You'll be able to see exactly what is needed in order to start processing using or offering your customers the ability to pay their invoices online using Click to Pay. Now they can pay using credit cards as well as ACH. Level 3 processing will also apply using Click to Pay. And you can set up Click to Pay with the default customer option of opt-in by customer or opt-out by customers. Now, once you've set it up, what I did was I created an invoice. And in the invoice, what you'll be able to see right within the body of the invoice is the option to send, and let me jump right back into my invoice here. You'll be able to send the Click to Pay link directly to your customer. So I'm going to go into an invoice that I had previously created. I saved it and released it, and now in the actions you're going to have the option to send a link or to sync the Click to Pay invoice. Now if you send the link, your customer will receive the invoice with the Pay Now button on the body of the invoice. Let's step over to your customer side of things. Once your customer clicks on the Pay Now button, which by the way, the invoice is a custom form, you can definitely add your logo for brand recognition, etc. The screen can also be changed to add your logo. You'll see that the customer will click on the Pay Now button and see details regarding the invoice, down to the line item detail. If they decide to make a payment, they simply have to click on Make Payment, and they'll also be able to see a full list of invoices that are still open. Now notice how this particular invoice is $3,500. If I click on additional invoices, we will auto increment, making it easy for your customer to pay more invoices, of course. Your customer also has the option to pay the full balance or a custom amount. If they continue, remember in this case, we set them up to accept credit cards as well as ACH. They have the option showing there. And they could also save their payment for future use or use a previously saved payment method and click continue. They now can enter their card information. And notice how when I'm typing in this information, it's really only 4 fields that I would have to key in. If I've used this in the past, it will be 3 fields because we will save the postal code and then they submit their payment. The transaction will go through our gateway. PCI compliance is taking place. We're going to verify all of the information is a match. If it is, they will get a success notification. You can also set up the system to send the customer an emailed receipt. So that's entirely up to you. Now, what do you have to do back in Acumatica in order to accept the payments? You go to Process Click to Pay Invoices, and you will get a list of all of the invoices that have been paid for using Click to Pay. Now, you can manually capture and complete the transaction by clicking on either one of these buttons, but you can also automate the system using the schedules from Acumatica. So we try to make everything very seamless. As you can see, we are embedded into Acumatica. You can set up the system so that every day at a certain time, you will update all the Click to Pay payments. In this case, I'm going to update one of them only, and I'll say process payment. Notice how the transaction is going through right now. Again, it's being verified. We're capturing the funds for you. And once the transaction is complete, you'll see the standard green checkbox here. And if you go back into your receivables and your invoices and I think it was payments and applications. I'm sorry, I'm doubting myself there. You can see the transaction that we just completed is now in your payments and applications. So you didn't have to retype in any of the credit card information, export it or import it. Everything is done automatically from within Acumatica. So once you do take advantage of Click to Pay, it's available. I wanted to just mention it is available at no charge to all of our merchants. also with installation, implementation, trainings, and support. I also wanted to take advantage of this opportunity and invite everybody to join our group, Acuconnect. This is a group of ISVs and partners that are willing and anxious to provide free training sessions in regards to their specific solutions. And notice how we have many founding members. We have many more that have joined, a little over 25. If you're interested, please visit acuconnect.com. If you're interested in a free audit, learning more about how to decipher your current statement, very simple. Contact me, provide me with 2 of your most recent merchant statements, no strings attached, I promise, ladies and gentlemen. I will show you where the bank is making the money, where the card brands make the money, where the processor makes the money, including APS, and then I will show you and pinpoint the areas in which there is room for savings, especially discussing level 3 processing. And with that, I would like to hand it back over to you, Adrian.
Thank you so much, Patty. And everybody have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.